Alright guys, they finished what they started. Beware, massive spoilers ahead.
How you get so big getting food of this kind?
Alright friends, let's talk Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. So this movie, right, is crazy. So everyone is probably having a lot of feelings right now. And I don't know what your feelings are, but you probably have a lot of them, and it's very possible that they're very conflicting. If you watched my spoiler-free review, which was just my first impression of the film, you'll see that I did like the movie quite a bit the first time I saw it. But mostly I was tired, exhausted, and unable to process it. I just got home from my second viewing. I am so energized. I'm so amped. I loved this movie the second time I saw it. Now, when I finished watching it the first time, my first reaction was really, truly, oh dear me, people are gonna hate this a lot. And it's possible you do. And if you do, it's okay. Like, this is gonna be a positive review because I really liked the movie. But I want to start with, if you don't like the movie, it's okay. Like, I want to work with you here for a minute. Like, just breathe in and breathe out. And it might sound easy for me to say this because I liked the movie. I have not talked about this on the channel. I've talked about this a little bit online. Well, actually, that's not true. It might have come up in some of our live streams. I don't want to make this review about another movie, but this summer, I saw Endgame, and I'm a big MCU fan. I've seen since Phase 1, or like I didn't start with, like, I saw all the movies in Phase 1, but like Phase 2 on, I saw every Marvel movie opening weekend. I was there for it. There were only like 2 out of the 20 some that I wasn't a big fan of. Like, I was huge Marvel fan, or Marvel Cinematic Universe fangirl. I was crushed by Endgame. I didn't like Endgame. I didn't like the narrative choices in Endgame. I thought it completely disregarded the character tracks. And I'm not here to get into a discussion with Endgame. If you loved Endgame, that's great. I am so completely happy that you loved Endgame, and I'm not here to argue the point. What I am saying this for is, I had my heart broken by a franchise that I'd spent a very long time with over the summer. So if you've had your heart broken by The Rise of Skywalker, I understand. Like, I don't understand, like, I don't feel that way about this movie, but I understand how you're feeling right now. And this is a movie that made very specific narrative choices. The idea of, and I warned you all about spoilers, but spoilers, the idea of Rey Palpatine, very big choice. I know there were a lot of people that were really banking on Ben not dying, who really wanted to see he and Rey live on. There were other shipping choices that just didn't happen. The fact that Reylo happened at all might have upset you. People didn't like Palpatine coming back, that sort of thing. There were a lot of really intense narrative choices that there's simply no room for compromise on. They either happened or they didn't happen. And because of that, this movie is going to polarize people. And it's very likely that people will really respond to the movie or really not. It's also really possible that some of you out there really like some of these choices and really don't like some of these other choices. That you didn't like the fact that Ben Solo got redeemed, or you did really like that Ben Solo got redeemed. And there might be a combination, and you just might not know how you feel, because I gotta be honest, the worst thing to feel about a movie is actually to love some of it and hate other parts of it, because you really just don't know. It's like you're being torn apart on the inside. It's a deed that splits your soul. So obviously none of this has to do with the movie, but I want to let you guys know that if you loved it, I'm right there with you, and I'm so excited for it. If you feel completely let down and crushed by this movie, I understand. And as somebody who loves the movie, not that I have any kind of authority, nor that you need my permission to feel good about yourself, because you don't. But I'm saying, as somebody who loved it, it's okay that you didn't. I understand that it's painful that you didn't, because I've felt that pain about something else before, and I can tell you that in time, it will get better. The movie might not ever get better for you, but how you feel in general will. You will find something else that will kind of help you through it. It doesn't feel like it right now, but I promise you it will be okay. And that's just what I want to say. So no, I've been recording for almost 5 minutes. It's probably gonna be a little shorter when you watch this back. But for minutes now, I haven't actually talked about the movie. But I wanted to get that right away out of the bat. I'm not even speaking English right now. If you didn't like the movie, the rest of this review is going to be fairly positive. I do have some gripes, I do have some nitpicks, and I might get to those in this review. But if you don't want to listen to somebody just like gush about the movie, this isn't the review for you. But if you didn't like it and you want to like maybe see why someone did, then I'd be more than happy to have you stick around. But with that, let's get into it. I will say, I guess I just said we'll get into it, but I'm going to have another disclaimer. My plan is to do a series of videos for this movie like I did for The Last Jedi, where I want to do like a Finn video, a Rey video, a Poe video, a Ben video. So I'm probably not going to get into character specifics in this review, just to keep it from being absurdly long. We are going to do a streamcast on this movie anyway, fairly soon. A couple of them probably. And I want to do individual vlogs. So this is just going to be an overarching thing. If I didn't get to something you wanted to hear about, leave a comment on it. I will make sure I do a video on it, and we'll go from there. But let's talk about some big things. I am really okay with Rey Palpatine. This is going to be the make or break thing for most people. If you really, really liked Rey of Jakku, Rey Nobody, her own story, that is so completely valid. I understand how much that story meant to so many people, and it's something I enjoyed. I loved The Last Jedi, and I loved what happened with Rey in The Last Jedi, and her conversations with Luke meant so much to me, just as for things that I was going through at the time that movie came out. That said, I was also never a person that needed Rey to be a nobody. I walked out of The Force Awakens thinking she was going to be related to Skywalker, and that's just not how the story went. We got to The Last Jedi. It wasn't what I wanted, but what Rian Johnson did was fantastic, and so I went with it. With this, there's going to be the debate until the end of time if JJ was trying to undo everything Rian did or not. And you probably already know how you feel about it. You probably already know what you're going to believe on it. In my opinion, and I am not a Hollywood insider, I don't know anybody personally, this is just me guessing, but what I think happened was JJ was not ever on board to do episode 9 at first. He did episode 7, he set up things for episode 7. I truly believe that in his mind he would have brought Palpatine back based off of things we read in the Aftermath trilogy, and that would all have been based on stuff JJ was working on at the time, but I don't think he went there, and maybe he didn't go there because he wasn't allowed to, maybe he didn't go there because he didn't want to force the next 2 filmmakers to do it. I don't know what the story is, but it didn't come up, but he set up Rey's parentage as something that was important. Last Jedi was being developed at the same time as The Force Awakens. Rian took a different route, and ultimately probably wanted Rey's story to be what it was at the end of The Last Jedi. Colin Trevorrow leaves episode 9, cue JJ. I don't think JJ really wanted to do anything that Rian did, but I do think that JJ wanted to make the episode 9 he would have made. Even though he knew he wasn't signed up for it, I'm sure in his mind, because if you are a storyteller of any kind, you know this. Like, when you start writing a story, you have an idea of where it could go and where it could go after. And I'm sure JJ was like, man, if I did these movies, this is what I would do. And I think he came back and he was like, I want to make Rey's parentage important. I want to bring back Palpatine, and this isn't a way we can do it. I remember walking out of Force Awakens, I loved the idea of Rey and Kylo being cousins. Forgive me, Reylos, I'm sorry, I wasn't a Reylo. Like, I'm still technically not one, but like, I was okay with Reylo. I was like on board for it happening after The Last Jedi, but I was not a 2015 Reylo, full admission right now. But after The Force Awakens, I wanted them to be cousins, but it was because that I wanted the daughter of the Skywalker son and the son of the Skywalker daughter to mean something in the Force and to kind of pick up some kind of Force legacy because of that. And that's really why I wanted Rey to be related to someone. It wasn't because I needed an explanation for her power. It wasn't because I didn't think a scavenger was good enough. It was because I've been a fan since I was a kid. I was a prequels kid. And the legacy of Anakin Skywalker means a lot to me. I think a lot of people were Star Wars for them, like their introduction to it was the sequel trilogy, and this isn't true for everyone, and there's certainly exceptions, but for a lot of folk, who the sequel trilogy was either their introduction into Star Wars or when they became obsessed with it or felt their identity within it. They don't have that sense of I want all the movies to connect. So for me, it was because it wasn't that I thought Rey wasn't good enough on her own. It's that I so loved Rey that I wanted her to be a part of this group that I already loved. Like, I wanted to include her, not that I needed to explain her. Like, that's where that emotion was coming from for me. And so I that was the thing I always wanted. And then to have Kylo in the movie be like, Rey, you and I are a dyad in the Force because my mother is the daughter of Anakin Skywalker and your father is the son of Palpatine, so we're special. Like, 2015 me was just like freaking out that I didn't get it with the people that I wanted, but I still got it. And I got it in a way where Kylo and Rey could still kiss and it's not weird. So it was just like, for me, it was a win-win. I got all the things I wanted. And for some people, that's not going to be what they wanted, and it's fine. Like, again, I feel guilty. I feel really guilty because I feel like J.J. Abrams had a Force vision and is like, Jess, I've seen what you want in a movie and I'm gonna make it. And I'm like, I would have been like, JJ, don't, you haven't been on Twitter. I'm sorry. Like, don't do this. But like, I'm so jazzed right now because like, this is what I wanted, and I'm sorry, but it is. And I almost feel like such a hypocrite because I've spent the last 2 years telling people, like, it's okay that Rey's a nobody, like, that's the story they wanted to tell, but I still believe that. And, like, if Rey had still been Rey of Jakku in this movie, I still would have been fine with it. The fact that it became a thing I liked. And, you know, Kylo wasn't really lying to her because I don't think he knew the truth at that time. There was a certain point of view thing of your parents were nobody, but like, because they chose to be. And I think that says something too about bloodlines, and I think that's something that shouldn't be forgotten. You know, yes, it's a fix, it's duct tape, it's a retcon for Kylo to say, well, your parents were nobody because they chose to be. And I get that, and I'm not going to pretend like that's not a thing, but I think you can also then say that Rey's parents, or Rey's father, denied his bloodline and said, no, I'm not going to take part in Palpatine, and I'm going to rescue my daughter from him. And then for Rey to reject the Palpatine lineage and be like, no, I'm going to be a Skywalker, I'm going to pick this lineage. I feel like the first movie is just about an awakening. It's just about an inspiration. It's just about deciding that you can be more than who you are now. And I feel like The Last Jedi is about you can be who you are, even if you're a scavenger from Jakku. And what I like about the parentage change, people are gonna hate it, but the Rise of Skywalker is Rey. It's be careful what you wish for. Rey got what she always wanted and found out how terrifying it is. You know, Rey so badly wanted to be related to someone, but she wanted to be related to Luke or Han, like one of the good guys. But she was actually related to the actual worst person in the entire galaxy. And you find out that what you've always wanted, what you think is the answer to your problems, is the worst thing that could possibly happen to you. Like, for me, philosophically, it's so in line with how I feel. I feel like we as people chase things that we think we want that will make us happy. These superficial, easy answers. For Rey, that's, I need to find my family. And it's not just that you can be your own person. Like, that's true. And Rey still is her own person. Rey still decides, I'm gonna be who I want to be. I'm gonna name myself. I'm not gonna follow in my bloodline and in my lineage. This is who I am. But she does it because she got everything she ever wanted. She got everything she ever wanted, and it was terrible. Because sometimes the thing we really want, the thing we think is the answer, isn't just not the answer, but is actually the worst thing that can happen to us. Sometimes the thing we chase isn't not just another option, it's actually the thing that can destroy us because we're following the wrong thing. And that is such a message that speaks to me personally. And so I love it. I love it because it spoke to something that I believe in, and I understand that it is the counter to something that a lot of other people believe in, And I'm sorry, because it's hard to do both at once, but my one consolation is that Rey still picks who she is at the end of the movie. At the end of the movie, she still says, I am not a Palpatine. My family is the one that's fighting up there in space, and I'm going to do something for them. My family is the spirits of all the Jedi that I can hear. My family is my friends that I'm going to go see and hug at the end of the film. That's my family. It's not this crotchety old, maybe a clone, probably a clone body dangling from a thing. And that's still powerful to me. Because yes, there's a lot of us out there who might think that we're nobodies and we can't do something about it, but there's also a lot of us out there who come from really crap situations who wish we aren't who we were born to be, and we want to leave that. And where this will leave some people, it will find other people. And I'm sorry for that, because there was no way to make this movie find everybody, but there's still a lot of value in it. It's just not what people were thinking for the last 2 years. I also, you can see I'm a Kylo freak, and I have been loud and clear on Bendemption on this channel for a long time, and I loved it, and I'm so satisfied, and I am so sad that Ben is dead. I am so heartbroken seeing it. Even the second time, that tore me apart. The first time, I was literally screaming, don't you do it, don't you do it, you don't die. Like, I was angry. I get it. I wanted those stories. I wanted those stories of Kylo Ben living past the movie so that we could see him and have this life. But we still got Ben in the movie, and we got to see it. You know, when Anakin was redeemed, he died immediately. We got to spend time with Ben Solo, and he was Ben Solo, and it was wonderful. And again, it was done so well. So there's two things with this that I think will upset people, and I want to address both. The first thing with Ben and him dying, I've seen online that one of the complaints is that Anakin spent the prequel trilogy trying to save people from death, and that his default to the dark side is because he wanted to save Padme from death, and that it undoes something of Anakin if Ben, sorry, it's a habit, if Ben could bring Rey back, and Anakin couldn't bring Padme back. But that's the thing! That's what it was! That was the genius of it! That what happened with Anakin was he said to Padme, or what he said to the Force, what he said to the galaxy was, I will kill the Jedi. I will kill children. I will slaughter the men and the women too, and like animals, and I will rip down freedom. I will follow a Sith Lord. I will burn anything that needs to burn. I will kill anyone I need to kill to save you. But he never once sacrificed any part of himself for Padme. It was always, I will sacrifice anyone else I have to for Padme to bring you back to be with me. It was always utterly, completely selfish. And the act he did to save Luke was where he went, you know what? I would die to save my son. Before it was, I would let anyone else die to save who I loved. With Luke, he said, I would die to save this person. And what Ben did was say, I would die to save Rey. He did the one thing that Anakin never could in his life as a Jedi. Rey has her Force powers. Rey has her ability to heal. That didn't really bother me. People have powers, people don't. Some Jedi can use psychometry, some Jedi can't. Rey can heal, others can't. But, that was its own thing. But Ben then copying what she did, kind of learning that power, and I think part of this is that life force they have. Rey says when she heals the snake, I gave some of my life essence to the snake. It takes some out of her, but she's okay, because she's not really resurrecting the snake, she's just healing it. And she had a lot of life energy, and she can recuperate it. Ben and Rey had both just been sucked of so much of their life force. They had very little left. They have this bond. And I think even though Ben may not have been able to use that power on anyone else, I think he could use it on Rey because they were joined in the Force. And Ben said, I have this one little last bit alive, and I can use it to save Rey. It's not unlike, if you follow the Clone Wars, it's not unlike the father using the last bit of the daughter to save Ahsoka. because I like to convey everything back to Mortis. But that was the point. Like, Ben dying was what Anakin could never do. I also love the scene with Han. I love that the scene with Han was really more like a memory, probably some kind of like Kylo, like not necessarily a Force, I mean maybe a Force vision, but you know, Han wasn't really a Force ghost. He says that he's Kylo's memory, so it's something a little bit different because Han really couldn't and shouldn't be a Force ghost. But I'm gonna get a little bit theological for you guys. I don't, you know, I'm of the Christian faith, and that scene with Han meant a lot to me because he's going through the motions of what he did when he killed Han, right? So it's literally the same scene over again. Han touches his face. Kylo says, or Ben says, you know, I know what I have to do. I just don't have the strength to do it. But then he throws the saber away. This is after Leia has passed, and and I'll talk about that too here in a second. But for Ben to go through that, it makes me think of after the resurrection of Christ. He reappears to his disciples, and I won't get too preachy on you, I promise. But there was the disciple who denied him 3 times. For those of you who know the story, before Christ was crucified, one of his most beloved disciples rejected him 3 times, denied knowing him 3 times. Christ comes back and talks to that disciple, and then asks that disciple if he loves him 3 times. And 3 times that disciple has to say, yes, I love you, and like affirm his relationship with Christ. So Christ's death had atoned for his crimes and had redeemed him, but he still had to go through the act of repeating the point where he had sinned, but doing it correctly this time. And that's what I saw with Kylo and Han, that with Ben, he had done this terrible act as Kylo, but now as Ben, he was doing it the right way, and he was being put in a situation where he had to walk back through the steps, and I loved that. Some people will probably be upset. This is the other thing I was going to talk about. Some people will probably be upset that Leia died to save her son. This is something that a lot of people I know didn't want. They didn't want Leia to die in service of her son's redemption, due to systemic issues that exist in storytelling as we know it. I understand that, and I don't want to invalidate that. Carrie has passed. There was only so much they could do with Leia's character. She was never going to have a very active role in this movie because she was limited. I personally believe that Leia's act not only was to redeem Ben, but was to also stop Rey from what she was doing, because Leia's passage stops her from, I mean, she had just killed Ben, or killed Kylo to bring Ben into being, I guess. Not really, but kind of. So I think it was in service to both characters, both a male character and a female character, for what that's worth. But I think that's what Leia... I mean, I think there's something to the fact that Leia stayed behind. Like, she didn't really become one with Force. She was waiting for Ben so they could go together. I think it's a choice she made. I think it's a choice she made when she knew how critical everything was. She knew Palpatine was back. People might like that. People might hate that. If you hate it, I understand why you hate it. But if you've been watching my Redemption series, and I will be definitely talking about that in that Redemption series, I talk about how you can't earn redemption. You can atone, but you can't earn redemption. If you've earned redemption, it's not redemption. If you've earned it, it's not a thing that's been done unto you and given to you. Leia's death is something outside of Kylo that is purer and more good than himself, that pays for his crimes. Literally, again, to get kind of theological on you for a second, since I already brought it up, Christ dying for all of the sins of all of the other people, right? So Leia died in such a way that it could cover the sins of her son and cover the sins of her apprentice, Rey. You can love that, you can hate that. I'm not going to tell you you're right or wrong. It doesn't bother me because I really like the message it sends, that true love is a covering, that it is something that sacrifices itself, that it is something that gives. That's what I believe love to be, and seeing an expression like that on screen I thought was really powerful, and a really good way to give Leia something to do in the film. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. I don't need to get in an argument about it, but I really, really appreciated that. Oh, boy. And now I'm talking more about individual characters than I meant to do, because I still mean to do specific videos about specific people. Finn. If you watched our last Jedi stream, I talked a lot about Finn. Finn was everything I wanted. I wanted a Force-sensitive Finn after The Force Awakens. That is one of the very few things I felt let down by in The Last Jedi. One of the things where I just kind of begrudgingly accepted it. Like, I wanted Finn to be able to touch the Force, and I held out hope that we might someday get Finn being able to do that, and I was so happy. And it also explains why he takes to Rey so quickly, and why they have such a bond, because Finn is the person in the group that can better understand what she's going through. Finn, I felt like, finally got his story. He got to be a general. He got to go do his own thing. He made his own friends. Nothing Finn did was for the service of the character arc of another character, in the way that I felt like his character arc was a service to Rey in Force Awakens, and his character arc was a service to Poe in Last Jedi. His character arc was a service to Finn in The Rise of Skywalker, and I'm so happy. I'm so thrilled by that. I thought Poe was great. Some people are probably going to be upset because Rose wasn't used as much. I never expected her to be. I think that JJ wanted to tell the episode 9 that he always wanted to tell. Rose is not his character. Rose is Ryan's character. I don't think it was any bad blood. I don't think it was any ill will that he didn't use Rose. I just simply think that Rose wasn't his character. She didn't have an arc or an ending that he knew. He wanted to tell the stories of the characters he wanted to tell. And that's all there's to it. And for those of you out there where Rose was your character, she spoke to you, she meant something for you, that's valid. And I'm sorry that you don't get to see her. And I'm sorry that that's a slight to you. I get it, because I have felt that way about Finn for 2 movies. So I understand what that feels like. My one consolation to you is I just genuinely don't think it was malicious, and I don't think it was a response to anything that was going on in fandom culture. I just simply think she wasn't JJ's character, and so JJ kind of left her be. And, that's all I feel really comfortable in saying, because I don't want to belittle anybody for how they may be feeling, because I understand when a character does not get utilized as much as you want, when you can really identify with that character. But that's just kind of what I would say there. With the Rey Skywalker thing, I kind of talked about that, but I think that's fine. My one true gripe is I wish at the end of the film, when Leia and Luke Force Ghost show up, that we had seen Ben there too. That it would have been the 3 of them. We could have seen Ben reunited with his mother, which he never got to do in the films. See him make good with his uncle. We had already seen him have a scene with Han. And it would have implied some kind of connection. I'm holding out that the reason why he's not there is that maybe there is a little bit more of a story to tell, that maybe in putting his life essence into Rey, maybe she can still talk to him in some sort of way. Maybe we can still get something in whatever stories are told of Rey after episode 9. But that's really my main letdown, is that I think it's weird that he's not in that scene. But otherwise, I liked it. She had a yellow blade. It shows she's different. I've been seeing a lot of critique that this appealed too much to fanboys. I don't think JJ was making an active decision to appeal to fanboys. I think that at the end of the day, JJ is a non-bigoted fanboy. I think he's a fan bro. I think he's a dude that watched Star Wars as a kid and has his idea of Star Wars, and he has that idea of Star Wars that a lot of the toxic crowd has, without being toxic himself. I don't think JJ is sexist or racist or what have you. I think he just told the story he wanted to tell. It just happens that story happens to appease a lot of people who have had very specific critiques of the sequel trilogy so far. And that can be unfortunate. But, I gotta be honest with you. I like what JJ did too. I get it. I don't like the fact that there will now be re-energized toxic haters out there. And again, if you don't like the sequel trilogy, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about that particular subgroup, and we all know who they are, I think. You know, I don't like that they have fuel for their fire now, but I don't think it was intentional. I don't think JJ is really that tapped into online discourse in the way Rian Johnson is, because he's on Twitter all the time. I think JJ just made the movie JJ wanted to make, and it happens that JJ is a fan bro, and that's just kind of how it is. But he made a movie that I like. The pacing didn't feel as erratic the second time through. It's really hard the first time you watch it because so much is happening so fast, there's so much to take in. But that really only affects the film the first time you watch it. When you watch it the second time and you kind of know what's going on, the pacing is actually really nice because it keeps the movie going. I like faster paced movies. If you don't like faster paced movies, Last Jedi is more your cup of tea. Again, completely valid. It's a style choice, but up until now I've been describing the film as like the most glorious dumpster fire I'd ever seen because it just felt so erratic the first time I saw it. Did not feel that way the second time through. The second time it felt way more cohesive. At the end of the day, I was always worried about Palpatine's return. Wasn't a big fan of Palpatine coming back because I was afraid of what it would mean for Anakin. But if Palpatine was coming back, like, we can't go back and unmake that decision. I think they handled Palpatine coming back in the best way they could. I like that he's probably a clone, but it really doesn't get explained. It was just Don Monahan who's like, it's clone Sith magic things, and he's an interesting character because it also seemed like he understood the Sith language partway through the movie, so, like, I really want to know his backstory later on in the movie. I hope, you know, as things get released, but yeah, I thought that was great. I like that it was not fully defined how Palpatine came back, and you can kind of read into it what you want to read into it. I do hope that's explained, but it can be explained in a book or a comic, something where we can get way more nitty-gritty, something that can really pull from the canon in a way that a general audience movie just can't, and then we can get our answer in a much better source. The problem with answering stuff like that on screen is then you have to, like, make it at a level where everyone's gonna get it, and something that nitty-gritty I would much rather, like, maybe Ray Carson's novelization can address it, maybe a guide can address it, or maybe we'll get some other kind of novel, and I think it's much better suited for there. I love the explanation for Snoke. The tube with, like, all the Snokes in it was really great. I was just, like, on board with that. As far as does, like, this movie undo everything Anakin did, I've seen that argument too. As somebody where my biggest fear was what happened with Rey and everybody was going to undo and make Anakin not the chosen one, I didn't get that feeling. And maybe it's kind of dumb, but there was one line of dialogue that made everything okay for me, and that's when Rey's on the ground. She's finally communing with all the spirits of the past Jedi, and you can hear Hayden Christensen as Anakin, and I was bummed out we never got to see Hayden, but I was really happy we got to hear Hayden, and he said, balance the Force just like I did. And that confirmed that Anakin did balance the Force, whatever that means. And yes, that means Rey's doing it again, and yes, that means Rey is some kind of new chosen one, just maybe not a prophesied one. But that line to me solidified that Anakin did that Anakin balanced the Force before, whatever that meant, and that made it okay for me. And, like it or not, Rey having this lineage and being tied to Kylo, making them a legacy of these two people that shaped the galaxy, that meant a lot to me too, and that made it a lot more okay for me as well. I'm trying to think if there's any other big topics I haven't gotten to. I'm going to break this movie down so much more. Like I said, I've seen it twice, once yesterday, once today. I want to talk about it more. I'm going to see it again. I'm going to kind of wait till during the week and find a quieter showing where I can kind of sneak my phone out and take notes as I watch the movie, and then get into some more nitty-gritty video. Oh, the other thing, I loved all the fights that Rey and Kylo had moving from, like, space to space, and I love how she could, like, send bin the lightsaber through it. I still think that's the world between worlds. I 100% do. I have a video about that on the channel. I really think that they are in some way using the world between worlds, but are just not aware that that is the space that they're using. Especially because Kylo is describing how he can't see where Rey is, even though we can clearly tell. So that makes me think that we as an audience are perceiving it as they're in this space or that space, but they could be perceiving that big starscape that we see in Rebels. So I still liked all of that. Like I said, I love the movie. If you're still with me and you didn't like it, I'm so so sorry you didn't. I wish you could be here where I'm at. Not because I feel like I'm right and you're wrong, but just because I know how it feels to be where you are, to either be really conflicted about a movie, which I have felt before, or to feel utterly let down and deflated by a movie before. But these are my thoughts on the movie. Please be kind, but leave me a comment. Follow us on the socials. We'll be far more active on there now that, at least that I've seen the movie. And we'll be doing a streamcast on this next week. But, like I said, I'll be doing more videos. But until next time, keep it real and fly casual.
Cooking can be fun!